afternoon, everyone who had joined for this webinar. Good afternoon. My name is Arun Mohan, and I welcome you all today to the webinar on career opportunities in uh, aircraft maintenance engineering and oil and gas pipe engineering. Mainly, this webinar is organized by ABIS Learning in consortium with Edge Varsity and Adi Shankara Institute of Engineering and Technology. Edge Varsity, based out of Bangalore in India, mainly focus to bridge the gap existing between the academic curriculum and industry requirements, and thereby enhancing the skills as well as employability of all learners. I take this opportunity to welcome all the delegates from the consortium and really happy to see the number of people who are already joined this webinar, and I can see more people who are still coming in. So, as mentioned earlier, the agenda of this webinar is to give you all a bird-eye view on the employability prospects in the arena of aircraft maintenance engineering and oil and gas piping engineering. Today, we have with us Mr. Patrick Brower, who is one of the directors of Edge Varsity, and we also have Mr. Shankara Menon, who is the CEO of Edge Varsity. I take this opportunity to welcome both of them to this webinar, and I thank Mr. Patrick Brower, who is with us from Germany, sharing his valuable time from his busy schedule. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Just to give a brief about both of them, Mr. Patrick Brower is the Managing Director of Brower Group of Concerns, a leading manufacturing enterprise for products in environmental and recycling sectors in Europe. He is also the trustee of the Board of Director Data Brower Foundation and an angel investor to many startups as well as operational companies across Europe. Through his extensive management experience, what he have, technology know-how, and sound business network, he serves as a critical bridge between the startup financing needs of a company and their larger capital needs later on. Mr. Shankara Menon, in fact, a very good friend of mine. He is the CEO of Edge Varsity with over 30 years of corporate experience, which includes 16 years of global business management experience. And his area of expertise covers sales, product delivery, project management, and technical support management. It's really our privilege to have both of them for this webinar. The webinar will be for 1 hour, including the Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. And I request all of you, those who are there right now, I request all of you to make use of this knowledge session, and please note down any questions you may come across during the session. And I request you all to kindly mute your microphone and switch off your video to avoid any kind of buffering issues, because I can see that there are a lot of buffering problems as of now because of the bad weather. Okay. I welcome Mr. Patrick Brower to address the webinar attendees.
Thank you, Mr. Arun, sir. Dear all, good afternoon. I just put my camera on for a few seconds just to make sure that you see my face. And you, I will switch it off later on because of the quality of this meeting.
Yes,
yeah, just to say hello to everyone, and I will switch it off now and hope the quality will be good all the time.
Yeah.
So first of all, let me express my gratitude to the management of Adi Shankara Group of Institutions and ABIS Learning for organizing such a forward-looking talking platform to present an impactful idea by giving adversity and me an opportunity to address your students. As you know, the world of work is changing, and some jobs are changing faster than others. According to the latest research, soon we will only be as good as the skills we possess. But which skills are they? And how can we make sure we keep pace with? A book by a German economist and World Economic Forum founder, Klaus Schwab, on the Industry 4.0 has raised the question of how technological change, job creation, income inequality, and education are related. The relationship is described as a race between the ability of countries to increase their investment in education and the speed of technological change. The wave of change we are experiencing today is no different. Those nations that invest in quality education, in inclusive skills development, are likely to manage the impact of change better than those that don't, which risk losing the race and facing the consequences of structural unemployment and rising income inequality. See the region of Detroit in the USA. Why you should go through an industry-oriented skilling program. We, and also me as employees and investor, are revamping our recruitment strategies. With the rise of gig economic, portfolio career and hybrid job, what businesses want is employees who combine acumen with creativity, collaboration with good communication skills, people who can innovate and solve complex problems. Yet 60% of businesses around the world say they are unable to find candidates who possess those skills. Developed countries like Germany or other countries in Europe are gradually turning to educational models that cultivate skills such as creativity and grit, but they are yet to crack the skills gap. On the other hand, emerging economies like India face more daunting challenges. High dropout rates, meager funds, a lack of access and inclusion, and acute industry-trained teacher shortage continue to plague progress. According to a report by McKinsey Global Institute, the economies of South Asia and Africa will supply nearly 60% of the world's new workers by 2030. College is important educationally and culturally, but what young people learn at university don't equip them for today's job market. It's important to get practical work experience early. Students who have 4 or more contact with employers or industry-oriented programs, while in colleges, are more likely to be employed at age 19 to 24 and 5 times less likely to be jobless. Opportunities to engage with employers through junior achievement, work experience, weekend and temporary jobs nurtures curiosity and the desire to explore new things. In doing so, they help you learn where your passions lies at young age, what work you'd like to do, and importantly, what you like to avoid. Learnability is a path to career security. In an environment where new skills emerge as fast as others become extinct, employability is less about what you already know and more about your skills, your possesses, and your capacity to learn. By focusing on learnability, the desire to and ability to adapt your skills to remain employable. Here's exactly where adversity skilling programs' high relevance lies. In Germany, let me only say some words about Germany. School leavers have the option of taking up a vocational apprenticeship instead of choosing full-time academic education. Known as dual studies, or referred to the dual education and apprenticeship system. In Germany, we call it dual Ausbildungssystem. It is highly regulated and well-regarded system whereby young people learn through a mix of on-the-job training as well as in the classroom. Typically, learners will spend 70% of the time in workplace and only 30% at the college. Most apprenticeships take around 3 years and almost want to lead to secure employment. Let me give you a quick idea about the dual education system in Germany. Mm-hmm. The dual education system is sometimes referred to the English system as German vocational education and training system. It's a combination of theory and training embedded in a real-life working environment. It acts as a transition between school and the workplace, with most apprentices aged between 16 and 19.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some placements are aimed at those aged 18 and above, where the apprenticeship can form part of a degree course.
Mm-hmm.
This vocational education system involves students splitting their learning time between the classroom and on-the-job training.
Yep.
This training typically lasts around 2 or 3 years, after which time students will often gain an industry-recognized qualification. There are currently 330 occupations in Germany that require formal training. And with its standardized training and qualification, this system allows many students to gain the correct training before they embark on their chosen career. There are 400,000 German companies, amongst others my company also, which offers vocational training positions. Of those companies, around 2/3 tend to offer students employment contracts at the end of the apprenticeship. This is an average. We do more of it. Germany is most in need of electrical, mechanical, mechatronical engineers, metal workers, cooks, nurses, age career workers, computer scientists, and software developers. A major factor is which will impact decisively on the prevailing skills shortage in future in Germany's aging society. An aspect of demographic change, the aging of society is exacerbating the skills shortage. The government has been actively looking to draw people, or say brains, who qualify from Mexico, the Philippines, Brazil, India, and Vietnam, among others.
Okay.
Very recently, a Skilled Immigration Act has been passed, which is a new law that expands the possibilities for qualified professionals to come to work to Germany. Now it's easier for skilled workers from the non-EU countries to migrate to Germany in order to work.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh?
That's really interesting, yeah.
Yeah. One of the major factors motivated me to be part of this journey of adversity is the fact that what adversity is set out to do is exactly what the industry, a country like India needs. In the current situation, of course, it's more effective. I firmly believe that these type of initiatives and interventions are absolutely critical for India to improve. Not only India, there are also many other countries also which adversity could help. Yeah, but to improve the overall employability level of its young generation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I want to thank you all for listening to my little speech and take my apologies. I have to leave at I think it's 4 o'clock in India, and local time it's 12:30. I have another meeting.
Yeah.
I wish all of you best luck for this meeting and have a wonderful time. Stay healthy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank
Because you are
your
having
time.
a busy schedule, we know that. And we wish you all success, in your future endeavors, whatever comes across.
Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron, sir.
Thank you. I now request Mr. Shankara Menon, our CEO of Edgevarsity, to please take forward the webinar from here. And before he takes, I just wanted to inform the people who are there in the attendee list who are watching this webinar, that this is a very good opportunity for you to understand the possible or the prospects of career opportunities in the aircraft engineering and also oil and gas. So, and again, to add that there is a chat facility in this Zoom where you can post your questions, and as you all know, because you are all techies, so you can post your queries, whatever is there in that particular chat session, and we'll be answering all your queries in the Q&A session. Okay, the Q&A session will be towards the end of that. So I request you to please note down whatever queries you're having in between, when Shekaran sir will be taking care of the complete webinar. Okay. So now I hand it over to Shekaran sir. Shekaran sir, please take it forward from here.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't appreciate this, and good afternoon, everybody. And thanks to Shankara management team also. Like Patrick said, it's wonderful to address this. And I have a little added pleasure here because I'm addressing students from my home state, Kerala. And I'm really, really happy to do that. In fact, I was just indicating to Arun that we have been running similar sessions for a few colleges, mostly in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu in the last few weeks. In a way, the current lockdown, there are a lot of negatives. The positive side of lockdown is that we are able to conduct these kind of sessions, which is, the way I look at it is more of exchanging experiences or sharing experiences, because I'm a firm believer that experience sharing is a great learning mechanism. We need to definitely focus on the theoretical aspects and the textbook things, but learning from experience is much, much better. So I keep listening to people, I keep reading about their personal experiences. Whatever books that I try to read, I give priority to people who write their, live experience. So here also, I'm just trying to give you, I'm trying to take this opportunity to share some of my experiences. Like I don't mention at the time of introduction, I spent about 30 plus years in the industry. And in this process, I would have interviewed. I'm not saying this to say that I've interviewed a lot of people, but I've definitely interviewed a lot of people. And in fact, some of the learning that we had during this particular process is what led to a thought process like Edgeversity. So let me just start off with my slide. Once I just start sharing the screen, if you can just confirm that everything is visible to all of them, then I just move on from there. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
All right. So, like I said, I think it is more of an experience sharing. So let me start off with one particular experience. There have been many experiences. One particular experience that got me thinking, something like this. Now, I don't mention about the topic as the employment opportunities or job opportunities in aviation engineering or oil and gas industry or hydrocarbon industries. That is indeed the point of discussion. Don't get confused with the title. But I felt if you do not talk about the problem, if you do not talk about challenges, this entire session might become a little incomplete. Right? So that's the reason I want to talk about the problem that you're faced with. What are the issues and what is that each one of you, and I'm referring to students, each one of you should be looking at doing, and then we'll talk about how can we, Edgeversity, can help you in this process. So starting from this particular experience, again, just a early warning or a heads up. I'm going to share some data here. This might look very scary. Idea is not to scare you all. Idea is to help you understand what the reality of life is, so that we all can take a decision. We all can take an informed decision as to how we get over this particular problem. I'm sure you all agree that identifying the problem or knowing the problem is half the solution. So the idea of presenting some of this data is only to help you understand what the reality is. Don't get scared. Idea is not to do so. So I'm just talking about this particular experience, and this happened in the company that I worked last before I came out in 2015. This is a software product company based in Bangalore. I was there for about 19 years. That is my third job. Prior to that, I worked in 2 other places. So in this particular case, what happened is we decided to recruit some software engineer trainees off campus. We've been doing on campus recruitment. This time we thought, why don't we try off campus? Because there could be a lot of good candidates available off campus. So we should try that. And we did one off campus recruitment drive. And in that particular drive, we got about 1,000 candidates, 1,000 candidates coming for the interview with all good academic records. I'm not talking about the specific marks here, but we expected them to have certain level of score or marks for them to be applying for that. And we believe all of them, met the criteria. So all of them were academically good. So we were happy. I mean, my colleagues who were in the recruitment team, they were happy because we were looking at 18 trainee engineers or so, and we got 1,000 candidates. We said the job is done. But as we progress, you will see that there is a scary situation that after the written test, more than 950 students or more than 950 candidates got rejected. The first round, as you know, in most of the IT companies, it's a written test. So after the written test, more than 950 candidates got rejected. When we moved from that, the first round of interview to the second round of interview, we were left with only 4 people. Believe me, this got all of us thinking. We realized that this is not a situation that we can live in. This is not a situation that is going to be acceptable to us as a country or a society or whatever you call it. And in fact, this particular experience, like I said, I've interviewed multiple people, but then this particular experience, in fact, I'm using the word, gave me a rude shock. And that is when I started really going deeper. And this happened, coincidentally, this happened about 7 or 8 months prior to my leaving my job and then coming back to, getting out of the normal corporate life, getting into an entrepreneurial journey. So as soon as I came out of my job, I spent some time trying to understand this because I was convinced it is not because these students are not good. I was very well convinced about it. So I wanted to understand why that was so. Then what I did as part of that is I started talking to some of my friends who work in other industries. So I spoke to somebody who used to work in L&T. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this name, L&T. So he also, he retired now. He was a vice president of L&T. So he was sharing one particular, when we got into this particular discussion, he was sharing one particular incident with me where he interviewed a few candidates and he was talking about one candidate that whom he selected, right? He selected the candidate, but then he was talking about that particular interview process. In the interview process, the candidate answered all the questions very well. And towards the end of the discussion, my friend whom I spoke to, the interviewer, he asked him, what's your favorite subject? And this candidate was from a mechanical engineering background. And he said welding technology. He said welding technology, then they started discussing about welding technology. What my friend realized is that the entire discussion, this candidate was giving very textbookish answer for the interviewer. And that is when the interviewer asked him, have you ever seen a real life industry welding in your life? Surprisingly, it seemed the answer was no. So you understand the point that I'm coming to. I just leave it at that and then move on. Another example was, people that I spoke to, people whom I know who work in the aviation sector. I asked them what is the kind of problem that they're faced with. So they gave me a very, very simple example. They say, when they talk to some of these aeronautical engineers, who have completed aeronautical engineering, I'm not talking about engineers from mechanical or electrical or instrumentation or electronics background. They're saying even aeronautical engineers, when they're asked a question as to when does the aircraft flap, the flap which is on the wing, when does it get extended completely? Does it happen during takeoff or landing? They say many students struggle to give an answer with an explanation. It is not that they don't know about flap. It is just about applying that knowledge to the real life situation. So then what I did was I tried to understand, started looking at the IT industry specific report. Look at this particular report. I'm just talking about a slightly old report for a reason, because when this report was launched or published in 2018, there were many people, there were many CEOs and the CXOs of the industry, especially from people from Bangalore. They said this particular report is incorrect. That while we have a difficult situation, but the situation is not that bad. It is not that 94% engineering graduates are not fit for hiring. But later on, and this is very specific to IT, so don't get me, this is not a generalized statement. But later on, what you see on the little red box, later on the CEOs of organizations like Tech Mahindra and other IT companies, they came up with this particular point saying that, look, this is true. And now I'm going back to my experience that I just started off with. If I have to just look at that experience, I will not have any option but to agree with this particular report. Now then I decided, this is all fine. Let's look at what the AICTE has to say. As you all know, AICTE governs all the engineering colleges of India. So I decided to look at the AICTE because AICTE published this kind of a report every year. I looked at AICTE report of 2019, and this is available on the website. AICTE says, and when they look at all streams of graduation and post-graduation like MBA and all of that, they say the employable talent is at about 47%. The good news is it was 33 or 34% back in 2014, which went up to 47.38% in 2009. That's good news. But are we okay to live with a 47% situation? I'm sure the answer is no. Now, this is a generic, when I say generic, various streams of graduation. If you look at specifically about engineering, which is our topic of discussion today, which is very low at 50% in 2017. Again, the small good news is it has gone up to 57%. I just want to take a moment here and say, when you say 57% employable talent, in other words, 43% people who do not fall into employable talent, every year India produces about 9 to 10 lakhs engineering students. Correct? I think we all know that. So if you take 43% of, even if I take 9 lakhs, that is roughly about 4 lakhs. Correct? Now 4 lakhs engineers finding it difficult to find employment in the engineering student. And like I said in the beginning, it is absolutely clear that it is not just because of the students are not good, or it is not because the colleges they come from is not good. All of this are doing very well. So there is something missing. So what is that? The fundamental issue is, or there's a challenge, let me call it as a challenge, is when you're in college, I know some of the faculties could be listening to me now. The college focuses on the theoretical aspect because that is what we are all expected to do in a college, right? Especially if I talk about engineering college, we are expected to focus on the theoretical aspects of engineering when we teach them, because that's a foundation. Without that, you cannot make somebody an engineer. But when you go to an industry, when you go for an interview, what they expect, even I'm sitting on the interview table, I would also expect these candidates to have some understanding of industry relevant knowledge. In simple terms, we call it as application knowledge, right? So they expect that. Now, the theoretical knowledge is, absolutely critical and good because that forms a foundation. But since the focus of the colleges are theoretical knowledge, we are not able to provide this industry relevant orientation or industry orientation to the students. And if you look at the curriculum, I'm not trying to blame anybody here. If you look at the curriculum, engineering curriculum also, in some cases, you may see that some of these are not updated with the technological change. To give you a very small example, which we all see on a regular basis, I have been to some colleges, which has aeronautical engineering as a branch. And I have seen that they have some of this aircraft which are kept there, which is expected to be used by students to learn about the aircraft parts and things like that, right? For them to get a touch and feel of it. I would have visited about 6 or 8 such colleges. Again, not to blame the colleges. In most of this, all of these places, I have seen the aircraft which are very, very old, which are kept there. When I say very, very old, it is not just about the age of an aircraft that I'm referring to. It is about the technology which is used in that particular aircraft. Now, these aeronautical engineers, when they come out, when they join, let's say, an organization like, SpiceJet or Vistara or a Indigo airline, they all are expected to work with the new generation airplanes like 737 Neo or A320 or whatever. And most of these aircrafts today, as we all know, are absolutely electronically or computer-based control. In fact, I was talking to some of the pilots who are involved in some of our activities here. They were saying today, technology has reached a stage that the aircraft needs a pilot only for takeoff and landing. Other than that, they basically sit and monitor and make sure that nothing is going wrong. And they step in only when something is going wrong. So that's the level of automation. So if you learn about the mechanically controlled aircraft, for you to come and start working in an aviation or the airline company or an MRO, which deals with the new generation aircraft, you have to go through a next level of learning. So some of these are not done in our curriculum. It will take time. So that's what it is. Now, in case of faculties also, faculties are so busy with their teaching activities and their research activities and so on. They get very little or absolutely no time to go and experience what happens in industry. So I'm just going back to the problem statement that this particular issue is not because of the students are not good or the colleges are not doing a good job. It is just because of that whatever colleges are focused on, which is a theoretical knowledge, what we need to do is we need to just top it up with the industry relevant knowledge. That is what we should be doing. And that is why we are faced with this particular problem. And this is something that I knew this before, but I also discussed with many people between 2015 and 2017 to understand this, because like I said, that particular incident basically got me thinking as to why we have a situation like this. And we also realized, coming from industry, we also realized that there has to be strong involvement of industry to fix this particular problem. It cannot be fixed by university or UGC or AICTE alone. They definitely need a lot of support from the industry, and only then can you do that. As you all know, AICTE also recognized this. That is why AICTE formed something called NEAT, National Educational, I'm just trying to get the name. NEAT is part of the AICTE team, which is basically focused on improving the skill set. Now, a completely new dimension which none of us expected probably back in January or February is the COVID situation. Now we already are faced with certain issues and challenges. And did COVID add to the situation? I think we have to accept the reality, and we cannot run away from the fact it indeed added to the problem. What did it add to? Some of the industry verticals are badly impacted. For example, aviation was, today I can confidently say things are changing completely. Aviation was, because they were not even operational for 2.5 months. None of the aircrafts would fly, right? Hospitality industry had a major problem. And some of the small manufacturing setup had a major problem. So it did add to the problem. But when I say this, I was just talking to the same pilot that I spoke to the other day on a general conversation. He's a friend of mine. So I generally ask him how things are. He's saying now most of the airlines, most of the aircrafts are going reasonably full. So they're slowly increasing the capacity. And he was also saying that many of the large airlines, the likes of Emirates and Etihad, who basically did a salary cut, they're reverting to salary cut. They're kind of going back, and they're no more going with the salary cut. So things are going back to the positive side. So we had a temporary situation, and all of us knew that this is only going to be a temporary situation. So whatever the slowdown in recruitment, some temporary reduction in salary, all of this will slow down. So that is what I just want to talk about next. The good news is all of these are temporary. None of this is end of the world. And I'm sure many of you have heard about the Prime Minister's announcement about Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? The self-reliance mission of India. What does that mean to all of us? What does that mean to engineers? What does it mean in terms of job opportunities? It means it is going to create a lot more job opportunities than what we have today. I just put up this little announcement made by our Honorable Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. This is about India's plan to make India a major MRO hub. For the benefit of students, MRO stands for maintenance, repair, and overhauling. And this is a very aviation specific term. What it means is it is basically an aircraft servicing center. Why making India a MRO hub important? Because India has the technical skill, India has a lot of aviation engineers, and India also has a cost advantage. So by making India a MRO hub, it means that even airlines from other countries could use this particular service, which means more business. When it means more business, it means more job opportunity. So this is a great news for people who want to be in the aviation sector. And I want to just touch upon one other point. Aviation sector engineers who want to work in aviation sector needn't be only aeronautical engineer. There are opportunities for engineers from different streams of engineering, like mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, electronics engineers, instrumentation engineers. I come from an engineering background, and this is not something new. 30 years ago, I have attended an interview for Air India. I come from an instrumentation engineering background, right? So the opportunities exist for all types of engineers who want to be in the aviation industry. It is not limited to only aeronautical engineers or mechanical engineers. So in a situation like this, what are we thinking? What are you doing? If you ask me, at a very high level, there are two possible opportunities. One is to feel sad and bad. Okay, we have a problem. We are not getting enough opportunities. I'm not getting through the interview and all of that. Does it serve any purpose? It does not serve any purpose. We all know that. So on the other side, let us accept the reality. Let us say that, yes, we have a COVID situation and that is slightly beyond my control. And there is nothing that I can do. And I'm not going to worry about it. What I'm going to worry about is what is that I can do to make situation better. In any situation, I'm not just talking about this. Even in business situation, we look at the external control. There are many external factors and there are many internal factors, right? When we try to run business, we understand the external factors because it's important for you to know that. But when you cannot control the external factors, we don't just sit back and relax. We look at what is that we can do. What are the internal factors that we can work on to basically align ourselves with those changed external factors. So what is it you want to do? And what is it you should be doing? I'm just borrowing this quote from somebody. When the going gets tough, the tough reinvent, right? You would have heard the term, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. It's a slight change here, the tough reinvent. And what are we talking about? What reinvention are we talking about? Very simple. We are just talking about bridging this particular gap. We are just making sure that you're all skilled enough to be ready for the industry. Now, I know skilling is a very generic word. People can get confused. So I'm trying to be very, very specific and focus here. Focus on these three aspects. One, make sure that you are absolutely comfortable and clear with the application knowledge. Hope you remember my earlier statement. There is a theoretical aspect and there's an application aspect. Once you get the application aspects, you automatically get industry oriented. Because I'm just taking a small example here. I'm assuming that there could be a few mechanical engineers who are listening to me today. You learn about strength of material as a subject in your engineering, right? Which year? I can't remember which year we learned. I also learned it. Now, in strength of material as a subject, you learn about materials and different types of material, material composition, mechanical properties, chemical properties, and so on and so forth. So you have all of this understanding. Now, how do you apply this? Now, the question is, when you go to an industry, let me take a small example of a hydrocarbon industry example. Let us say you go to an industry, you're an engineer, you're posted there, and the question comes, your technician comes and asks you a question. So can I weld an SS pipe to a carbon steel plate or a carbon steel tank? Now, this is where you start applying your strength of material, the material properties or material science, which is subject, in the real life situation. So whatever that you learn, try and get into the application aspect of it. So once you do that, that is what the industry is looking for, right? So that topping up is absolutely clear, absolutely necessary and absolutely required. Now, there is another aspect which is absolutely non-technical, but none of us can ignore this. This is about your soft skills. What am I referring to soft skills here? There are many things in soft skills. It is a huge subject by itself. But here I'm trying to focus mainly on two aspects. One is your communication skills. How do you communicate to people on a one-on-one basis or whatever? And second is your presentation skills. The difference is a very thin line. The communication I'm referring to largely when you sit in an interview, there are 2 people or 3 people sitting and talking to you. How do you communicate in that particular interview? The presentation could be something like this. You have to present on a small topic. For example, when we try to recruit people here in my organization, especially in the sales function, I request them to create a plan. I give them a topic. I request them to create a plan and present it to us. So it is not only important for you to have the understanding and the knowledge, you should also be able to present it to people. You should be able to present it to people in a way that you are able to communicate your thought process to them. Your clarity of thought, your comprehending ability and all of that, you should be able to communicate that to people so that people sitting on the other side can very well understand. So this is the reinvention that we are talking about. This is what you all need to do. You should not be just sitting back and feeling, sad about it or bad about it, saying that, okay, we already had very little opportunity. I'll just talk about opportunity also. And now COVID added to the problem. No, it is for you to decide as to what is that you want. This is where I want to talk about the opportunity. Are you worried about opportunities? Are you one of those who are saying that we do not have enough opportunities? I want all of you to wake up. I want all of you to come out of that thought process. There are just two graphs, and this is a survey outcome of McKinsey. It could be slightly old, but then, that's mainly the reality. If you look at the graph on the right side, what does it say? And Patrick also touched upon when he spoke about this, referring to one of the McKinsey report, where they say the Southeast Asian countries and African continent together contribute to 60% of the workforce, right? You heard Patrick talking about it. Now look at this graph. What does it say? That the area that I'm pointing out to is India. As you all know, Indians are there all over, right? All over the globe. I had an opportunity to travel to many countries, and there's not even one country where I have not seen Indian workforce, right? So that's a reality. Now, what it says, that the graph on the right side says, India is going to contribute to 27% of the global workforce between 2010 and 2030. And it is estimated to be 325 million. Are we not talking about opportunities? Are these opportunities not enough for us? So believe me, and believe this report, opportunities exist. It is just about we being ready for those opportunities, we being ready to grab those opportunities. So our aim should be, each one of us should be working hard to make ourselves better than the rest. And I'm talking about a very healthy competition. I'm not talking about we pulling somebody else down. We are talking about making ourselves better than the rest. I just want to take a few seconds on this particular thing, because this is an email newsletter that came to me. Why did I pick up? The question was very interesting. Can educational technology companies bridge the skill gap in India? Right? It came to me as if somebody is asking me a question. And that's the reason I just put it up here. And my answer is absolutely. And I would say one of the reasons Edgeversity decided this to be an educational technology company, and one of the reasons we decided that we will offer this training program as an online training program and not as a classroom training program, is because we think and we are convinced an educational technology company or an e-learning approach can do a better job than a classroom training. I'll tell you how. I'll tell you why. Right? And I have one slide which talks about that. So the simple answer is educational technology companies can absolutely work and bridge this particular skill gap that one is talking about. And that is precisely what we are doing. How are we doing? At Edgeversity, we will help you in enhancing your employability by bridging this particular gap. So earlier you saw a shaky walk from your university to an industry when you come out of your college to go for a job opportunity. And Edgeversity basically makes that bridge very firm, where you can run. You're not even talking about walking, you can run. How do we do it? We basically do it through two mechanisms. One is we provide industry relevant training programs, and the other one is soft skill training. So this is where, in fact, in his introduction, he talked about, the opportunities in aviation engineering, opportunities in oil and gas, and all of that. This is where that particular thing starts. So I'll just take a step back here and say, we do have a problem. We do have a situation of many engineering graduates finding it difficult to get employed, and unfortunately falling into the bucket of unemployable talent for none of your fault and none of the fault of your colleges. And believe me, this is not a problem that we cannot solve. This is a problem that we can absolutely solve. And all we need to do is make sure that your knowledge, your understanding, your training from your colleges are topped up with industry relevant knowledge, and you're also sharpening your skills with respect to your soft skills, largely focusing on communication skills and presentation skills. All right. So what we have done, now spending a little time about Edgeversity, what we have done is we have identified a few industry verticals to train people on. And like I said, currently we are only focused on engineers. Our current focus is to enhance the employability of engineering graduates. So the areas that we identified are oil and gas, automotive, aeronautical, construction technology, environment, and information technology. We cannot ignore information technology, right? Because at least 30% of the college students who come out of engineering college want to work in information technology space, and we cannot ignore that. So why you see those little two red circles are, these are the two programs that we already launched, that is in oil and gas and aeronautical engineering. Automotive, construction technology, environment, and IT are activities, the work in progress today, and we should be launching most probably by December, January timeframe. And we are looking at this kind of program as certification program, and you get certification from, I'll talk about the details later, but overall approach is we have all of these programs created by industry experts and industry veterans. Like I mentioned earlier, nobody other than industry experts can solve this problem. So we need the support of people from the industry to solve this particular problem. And let me just give you a sense of some of the people, some of the two of the programs that we have. The aircraft maintenance engineering is one of the programs that we launched in June. It is meant for students, like I said, it is not only for aeronautical engineer, it is meant for people from the mechanical or aeronautical or ECE or EEE background or instrumentation background. Our focus is not on the design side, our focus is more on the aircraft maintenance side. Why? Two reasons. One, in your college education, you would have already covered various aspects of design, which are largely theoretical aspects, because that's something which is part of your curriculum. And the opportunities in design are relatively lower compared to servicing. For example, if you look at how many aerospace or aviation design engineers are working in India versus how many aviation engineers are working in the services side or the MRO or the airlines, you will see the other side being much larger, the services side being much larger. And our programs are created by industry veterans. I'll just talk about the experience of people vetted by the industry, because we have presented this program to the industry to make sure that, though it is created by industry veterans, we have presented to the current industry leaders to make sure that we are indeed meeting their expectation. Because when we say that we are going to make you job ready, we are going to make you industry ready, they have to be happy about it. So we did that particular vetting process. And the job readiness will be for the airlines, the MROs, and the aviation technology organization. And we also work in a particular model that once the student completes the program, they are eligible for a certificate, not just from Edgevarsity, they are eligible for a certificate from our certifying partner. For our aircraft maintenance engineering program, the certifying partner is a EASA approved training organization named ATCC, based in Germany. Again, for the benefit of students, EASA stands for European Aviation Safety Agency. Like DGCA in India, EASA regulates the aviation, civil aviation regulatory, is a civil aviation regulatory in European Union. Talking about oil and gas engineering is largely for mechanical engineers or petroleum engineers, because our focus is largely on the mechanical aspects of oil and gas. Though we call it as oil and gas, it is common for any hydrocarbon industry, whether it's a petrochemical plant or a chemical plant or a fertilizer plant or whatever. It's very common because the approach is very similar. I'm saying this not based on the theoretical knowledge. In my career, my first 6 years, I worked in this kind of plants, coming from an instrumentation background. And this is meant for mechanical and petroleum engineering. The students focus on the construction aspects, again, created by industry veterans, because that's our approach. All our program would be created only by people who have spent enough time in the industry and who have rich knowledge and experience. And course is authorized by Drilling School of Celle. Drilling School of Celle is another organization based in Germany. This is owned by large petroleum companies like ExxonMobil and Shell and others. They set up this institute, I think 20-25 years ago in Celle to train petroleum engineers for the oil and gas industry. So we have an understanding with them for authorizing and certifying our program. Now this is another important aspect. I told you that we use the help, we use the knowledge and experience of industry veterans. I just want to introduce these names to you. If you see this, I'll not take a lot of time here, except Suman. All other people, Mr. Becker, Mr. Radhakrishnan, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Muralidharan, they all have 35 plus years of experience in their respective field. Right? Becker runs ATCC, and he was also involved in our course curriculum review and things like that. Mr. Radhakrishnan and Mr. Sharma spent 40 plus years. I mean, they worked extended time in aviation industry. Mr. Muralidharan from the oil and gas background, he worked for about 36 years in the oil and gas industry, of which he ran an institute for about 16 years, training mechanical engineers for the oil and gas field or oil and gas industry. He has trained more than 30,000 engineers in that 16 years of running an organization. So these are the people who created our program. And Suman and Mr. Muralidharan also work with our students on a regular basis in hand holding and making sure that they are absolutely ready for the industry. To give you a quick view of what our course contains, and I don't want to just read through that, this is just for your information. In aircraft maintenance engineering, we talk about various aspects. In fact, when I talked to many aeronautical engineers who wanted to join our program, and who asked us questions as to what is the advantages of this program, I generally ask them a few questions about the module that we are covering. They haven't even heard of it. So our idea is to cover those aspects. If you look at oil and gas on the right-hand side, I think some of the mechanical engineers would be able to relate this to it. But our larger focus is what you do actually in the industry. When you talk about construction drawing, we are not talking about the basic drawing that you learned in your college. We are talking about various other drawings like general arrangement drawing or a P&I drawing or an equipment drawing and things like that. Go to construction materials, welding theory, the actual industrial welding theory, non-destructive test and things like that. Don't get confused why you have 14 modules in aircraft maintenance engineering and only 5 in oil and gas. The module organization is in a different thing. In fact, both these courses takes about 140 hours. The duration is more or less same. Both these programs takes about 140 hours of learning effort from your side with an average learning ability. So I'm almost at the end of my session, and I'm sure many of you could be asking this question. So how can you teach? How can you teach technical subject, that too industry relevant training program online, right? And in fact, when I spoke about can educational technology companies solve this problem, I said absolutely with high level of confidence. I tell you why I said this. I just have 3 examples. I'm going to run the entire video here. These are just 3 small parts that we have picked up from our platform, just to give you a sense of it. Now, I'll just run it for a few minutes and then talk about it.
Well, the reason is our own weight, caused by the Earth's downward gravitational pull. Our weight keeps us literally firm on the ground. To get off the ground, we have to produce an upward force that acts against our weight. This upward force is called lift. Birds and aircraft fly by using their wings to create a lift that counters their weight. How, you wonder? Well, the principle behind this action is called Bernoulli's theorem. Bernoulli's theorem states that an increase in the speed of a fluid occurs simultaneously with a decrease in pressure
in the interest of time
to make the aircraft gain lift. Conservation of mass, conservation of momentum, and conservation of energy. From an energy conservation point of view, we can state Bernoulli's theorem in another way. In a laminar flow of an incompressible fluid, because air is traveling much faster there, so the pressure energy decreases proportionally. But the air is moving much slower in the area below the wing. So the kinetic energy below the wing is much lesser, and hence the pressure energy. The engine sucks air into it with a fan. This air then passes through a compressor which has blades attached to its shaft. These blades spin at a very high speed, essentially squeezing in air or compressing it. This compressed air is sprayed with fuel and then lit using compressed gases expand suddenly, and this hot burst of gas is then shot out of the engine through a nozzle at the back. As gas shoots out through the back, Newton's third law comes into play. The engine and the aircraft from the GAD, we can see that similarly, T0. Now let's move to this column marked C03 here. The column is located 65,000 units away from the BM in the north direction and 45,000 units away, and V04 are placed about 20,000 units north and 35,000 and to each other. But it is not enough that we simply get the top view of the equipment. To understand the proper size and shape of the equipment, we need the elevation too. So, GADs are usually coupled with elevation diagrams to help us better understand how the equipment is positioned both horizontally and vertically. Now, this is the elevation diagram of the GAD you saw just before. From the elevation, we can see the height of the equipment clearly. We can also see.
I'll just stop here and then say what I have to just say. Now, the question could be, we just spoke about the flying principles. We spoke about how a jet engine works, and we also spoke about how the plan or a general arrangement drawing works in a industry situation. Now, let me tell you, and I'll just take the jet engine thing as an example. What are the best way to teach the working principle of a jet engine? Is to take somebody closer to a jet engine which is working, and keep the engine working, and then explain the whole thing. One, practically it is impossible for you to stand closer to a jet engine and understand that. And number two, if the engine is enclosed and then it's working, because you can't be making an engine working completely open, and you don't see anything else other than the blades, what is visible from outside. Everything else will have to be imagined by the student. And airflow is, since air is invisible, you can only say, okay, the air flows like this and this goes out. When you see something like this, the complete image is absolutely clear in the mind of a student. Now, I was just talking to some of the mechanical engineers. I don't want to ask this question in this group because I know they'll not get a question. In a mechanical lab, we get to see, or rather, let me talk about the drawing. I just gave you that example of the top view, which is the plan, and the elevation. So it is presented in a particular way that people are able to understand this very clearly. Of course, engineers will have a basic understanding of plan, elevation, side view, and view, but then they're able to kind of see that completely and how the transition happened. Similarly, I just talking to somebody else about a valve, a globe valve. I asked many mechanical engineering students who wanted to join our program, how many of them have seen a completely disassembled view of a valve? Most of them said no. Because you can't assemble and disassemble a valve every time you go to a lab, mechanical lab, because that's impossible. In our program, we have given this kind of disassembled view of the valve so that students can see the internal parts like your actuators, your stem, your sealing assembly and whatnot within the system. So that absolutely, all of these are absolutely clear in their mind. So when they go to the industry, when they go for a job, there are no more guessing things. They absolutely know what it means. When somebody says the actuator is not working, they have absolute clarity about what it means and what needs to be done. All right. So, teaching these kind of things online is not a problem at all. I just want to share this with you because I just picked up only this. This is our first student who signed up our program. Right? He's a 7th semester mechanical engineering graduate. I mean, he's still doing his 7th. He just moved into 7th semester. Student from Bangalore, one of the colleges in Bangalore. You can see this. He liked the whole program, and he also completed, because he made use of the free time between the 6th semester to 7th semester. He completed the program. I think he completed the final test only last week, and he got some 75% mark in the final 10. And you also heard Patrick mentioning about the job opportunities. The country like Germany opening up opportunities for Indians and other countries. And in fact, we also have an opportunity to position some of our students in that particular market with the help of Patrick and my other colleagues who work in who live in Germany. We also have some kind of an understanding in one of the companies which is into consulting and placement of people. So in fact, we are currently working with Nikhil to make him ready for that position. There could be few positions. I mean, we'll not be able to offer that to everybody, but then these are the opportunities that we are working with. This is what Nikhil has to say. And Nikhil, I mean, I just put it up here because he is the first student and he also completed that in record time. When we say it takes about 4 to 6 months of time, he completed that in about 3.5 months. And I think all of you are equally curious to know what are the job opportunities. And what you see here, I'm not going to go through each and every detail. There are multiple segments where engineers can work in aviation. And this is a typical organization structure of an airline company or an MRO. You have the line maintenance division, the technical services division, major maintenance division, quality assurance, other support services. In all of this, you have specialization like airframe, power plant, structure, avionics, cabin maintenance, and so on. There are enough and more opportunities in the aviation sector with airline or MRO. Is it all? Is it limited to only airline and MRO? No. There are many aviation infotech companies. I don't know how many of you have heard this name. These are IT companies or other solution providers who work with aviation industry. Just to give you a few names, I don't want you to remember all of these names, just to give you an idea. These are some of the companies who operate in India, right? Some of them, not all of them, some of them. So the opportunities exist. Opportunities are there all over. It is just about we being ready for that. And when you talk about oil and gas, what are we talking about in oil and gas industry? In oil and gas industry, there are contracting companies, there are refineries, there are subcontracting companies. I just have some of this name put up here. Some of this name could be very familiar to you. That's the reason I just put up this name as a reminder. And I also put up this little paper cutting. This is an announcement made by Indian Oil Corporation. I think this came up in, August mid or so when they announced their quarterly results. What are they saying? They're saying they're going to invest 13,000 crore to set up a new paraxylene and PTA plant in Orissa. Can you imagine the kind of job opportunities it's going to create? And some of these companies, what are the names that you're seeing, or maybe some other company, could have opportunities to work in this particular project. And when they have these opportunities, they would need people. And what do you need to do? Same thing that I said. Make sure that you are absolutely ready for those opportunities. Make sure that you are definitely better than the rest. That is pretty much what you have to do. And how can we do that is, we offer you this particular program, which is a skilling program, which will make you absolutely ready. And I see a special price and you're seeing a number here. This is not the number. This is a special price that we offer to you. So a retail student, while a retail student pays 55,000 rupees, we are offering this to you at 35,000 rupees as a special rate, for students from this group. Any more details, you can either reach out to us through email or call us on one of these numbers, and we'll be more than happy to help you with whatever kind of information that you want. We believe you all should be very clear about what we are offering and what is the perspective and what are the things. So idea was to, I think I took almost an hour to explain all of this, and I didn't want to rush through this because I was very particular that you all have a complete understanding of what it is. And when you all took up your time to come and attend this program, I felt it is very critical for you to know what we are talking about. So this is the opportunity that we can provide you. This is how we can work with you. This is how Edgeversity and ABS Learning can work with you and help you be ready for the opportunities that exist. That's all from my side. Thank you so much. I hope it was useful for you. And I'm absolutely happy, or more than happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Actually, this is separate. I think the pricing wise, you have subsidized it for Adi Shankara, right?
Sir, correct.
Right, na?
Correct. Did you hear that?
Yes. Okay. So, any of you having any doubts, please open up. Either you can talk to us or you can send us a chat. Okay, and then we will address it.
So Setu, are there questions now already?
Yes, sir. So I'll take up the first question. That is the course only applicable for the engineering students, or any other students can also apply for the same?
So the answer is, it is meant for people from the engineering stream. I'm using the word streams very carefully. It is useful for engineering graduates and diploma holders, if that was the question. But people from non-engineering stream may not be able to make benefit out of it, because we expect them to have certain level of understanding. Because if I talk about oil and gas, if somebody has not learned engineering drawing, he or she may not be able to understand what we are talking about the drawing related to the industry.
Yes, right, sir. Moving on to the next question. It's in this, are these courses, is there any industry-based projects to get industry-based experience, or it's all just theoretical aspects? So any industry-based experience will they get after the completion of this course?
So for aeronautical engineering and oil and gas, see, currently, like I said, I mean, the industry-based experience, it refers to apprenticeship. Today, there is no apprenticeship, but like I said, what we are trying to make you ready for is, we are trying to make you ready for the job itself. And there could be another question. I don't know whether it's already asked. Let me answer that question also. People might have a question. So what kind of a support do we get as students in terms of our placement? So we work with industry. Please understand, this problem is not only faced by the students. That's the reason I shared my experience. One of the reasons I got into this particular field is because I faced, when I say I'm not alone, me as an organizer, me part of the organization, we face the problem of not getting the right set of people. Think of a situation that if I have to, or if anybody has to go through 1,000 candidates to get 20 candidates, it's sheer waste of time. So industry is equally impacted. So industry is more than happy to see these kind of trained resources who are absolutely ready to go. Because what industry wants, when I recruit somebody tomorrow, my expectation is that that new recruit is going to be productive with just 2 or 3 days of orientation, not training, orientation. Today, industries are not willing to invest that kind of money to train everybody. This is not the case maybe 30 years ago when I walked into my first job. I was lucky that the company that I got employed with, they spent 6 months training me. Today, you might see that coming from some companies, but most of the companies do not want to spend that kind of a time because they want people to be absolutely ready. So we are trying to make you ready for that. And we work with this industry because they are equally impacted. And we try to provide you the job opportunities in those companies. So the short answer, there is no apprenticeship as part of this. This is more of the application learning with intervention from subject matter experts on a regular basis. And then we work with the students and the industry to help them get employed in these particular industries.
Sir, just to add on to you, whatever you are said right now, sir, we are also giving an opportunity to the student, say around 3 opportunities in, for the placement side, the entire thing we will take care of it, we are already having, a lot of requirements in oil and gas, as you are rightly said, from the Middle East and from, Far East also. So what we'll do is that we will also consider them for the, the next opportunity is coming in,
Correct. So the way, if I can just add to that, Arun, the way I see it, I mean, from a college standpoint, I mean, I'm just trying to now move from a student standpoint to a college standpoint. And a college will also be benefited in a way that, let's say company XYZ come to that college for recruitment. If these students, I mean, they're already at a particular level, and if these students are also topped up with industry relevant knowledge, these organizations, these companies who come for recruitment are going to be excited about the whole thing. They would use this as one-stop shop for all
No, I just wanted to share that, we already have some requirement from Oman oil and gas, we are having some requirements. So just to add, just
so this is just a win-win. This is a win-win situation for the entire ecosystem, including students.
Correct. So is there any other chat, any queries, please answer that.
Yes, so there's another question from Sri Rag again. He has asked that I have studied BSc Chemistry, Model 3 Petrochemicals. So is there a way to study the oil and gas engineering course?
I mean, I think my answer to that would be, I don't want to say yes or no answer. Sridhar, my request would be to just, I just put up the curriculum covered in this. You can also visit our website. There you'll see the topics covered. If you think you are able to understand those, you can absolutely enroll for this. Yes.
Right, sir. And I'll be taking few last questions.
We will, sorry,
guess
Setu, just an add-on point to Sridhar's point.
Yes.
As a generic point.
Yes.
What we also do, students, is we also conduct a initial level test, before you start your program. Why do we do that? We basically do that for our subject matter experts to understand where do these students stand with respect to this knowledge. We don't expect them to score high marks in that particular exam, because we know that that exam is slightly above their level. But we do that only as a self-assessment and the assessment of SMEs for us to understand where these students stand and what kind of an extra support would they need for them to be up and running. So we do that intervention on a regular basis, because end of the day, we want all our students to be at a particular level. We don't want people to be left behind because of, maybe their learning related abilities or the time they want to spend and things like that, or additional mentoring support they need and things like that.
Fine, sir.
And in fact, I say that, not because I'm not saying this as CEO of Edgevarsity, I'm just saying this as an individual. I think when we came out of our college, we did not even get an opportunity to talk to people who come from the industry. Today, with the technology and all this technological development, there is so much. I'm just saying, talking to people like Mr. Ashwini Sharma and Mr. Radhakrishnan and Mr. Murli, just talking to them itself is a rich experience. They just go on and on and on about their experiences. And what we try to convert that into learning.
Yeah, correct.
Right, sir. And so there's one more question. What's the duration of this particular course, and will the students be receiving a certificate after the completion?
Yes. So I will answer something else which is not asked also. The duration, like I said, it takes about 140 hours of learning effort from student with an average learning capability. Some people might do it a little faster. Like I said, Nikhil did it much faster, our first student. Some people might take a little extra time, but that is, maybe 10, 15, 20% here and there. Don't worry about that. And we are absolutely okay with that. So 140 hours is an average effort required. Yes, all students are eligible for a certificate if they score minimum of 60% in our final evaluation. There are 3 levels of evaluation that happens. The first evaluation is after every module. You have seen the number of modules in each of the program. After every module, there is an interview. So we do scoring for all the 3. So interview is more like a digital, yes or no. The final and the module level exam, there is a scoring. So what we expect you to do is we expect you to score 60% aggregate. So in the final exam, the final exam mark carries a weightage of 80%, and your module level exams mark carries 20% weightage. So the weighted average should be better than 60% for you to be eligible for a certificate. If any student struggles to get that, then any student struggles to get that, he or she can appear for the exam 2 more times. So we give three attempts. If somebody is not able to clear in 3 attempts, then we have we'll have to have an intervention to understand why they were not able to do this. So the short answer is they are eligible for a certificate if they score 60% in the final exam. And interview clearance is also a matter. In interview, what happens? Our subject matter experts will do the interview. If there are some feedback, it will be shared with them. Conduct 1 more round of interview. And the benefit of this interview is that we are not only able to assess these people, we are also able to give them an experience of facing an interview. Because many people, when they handle the first interview, even if they are knowledgeable, they struggle. So this becomes an experience or a trial run for the interview.
Okay. Sir, just to ask from my side, what were the kind of the salaries they can expect,
Okay, what is the kind of salary? It is a very, I'll have to give a slightly generic answer. If you look at aviation, let me talk about aviation as an industry. Aviation, leaving aside the COVID situation, because like I said, COVID is a very temporary situation. I don't think we should base everything on COVID. Entry level salary in aviation engineering is between 3.5 to 4 lakhs rupees. And there the growth is much faster. As many of you know, aviation industry is a little more glamorous as an industry. One of the reasons I went to Air India for an interview was because of the glamour. In the oil and gas industry, again, depends on the companies that you work with. Some of the names that I put up here are fairly large companies. L&T, for example, L&T, my understanding, the starting salary is about 6 lakhs plus annually, which amounts to 50,000 rupees a month, roughly, on a CTC basis. If you join organization like Petron or Dodsell or Punchlloyd, my understanding, this is based on the information that I've gathered, the salary levels could be something very similar to the aviation side, which is like 3 to 4 lakhs rupees range.
Okay, okay. Sir.
In fact, that is what you see in the IT sector also today, right?
Yeah. Is there any other question?
There is one last question, and it says that I studied computer engineering. So, is it possible for me to, go for the aircraft maintenance course?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, today, that's the reason I just touched upon this point. The way things are done in aviation industry today has completely changed. I'll just take a small example and answer this question. In aviation, I'm sure all the students would have heard this term big data analytics, right? Or big data or data analytics. Aviation engineering, aviation industry uses big data analytics in a big way for maintenance. I mean, they use it for a lot of other things. I'm talking about the maintenance part alone. So they use big data analytics, they use machine learning, they use artificial intelligence in the maintenance side for predictive maintenance and all of that. So there they do require people from the data analytics side or the computer science background. So only a computer programming knowledge will not be good enough because you need to understand the domain, correct? So understanding the domain, that's the reason if I just go back to my earlier slide, I just picked up, there's one slide which talked about aviation infotech companies. This aviation infotech companies largely recruit two sets of people. One set of people are hardcore programmers. They just write a program in C++, Java, or whatever technology they use, Python. Now there are other set of people who are functional consultants who need to have both aviation knowledge as well as a high level of software knowledge. They may not be hardcore programmers, but then they should have an understanding of programming and they should also have an aviation domain knowledge. So the short answer for this particular question is absolutely there is an interest. I mean, if you are interested in aviation as a sector, doing this program will definitely give you an added advantage over a normal computer science graduate who has not done something like this, because there you will have combination of software knowledge as well as aviation knowledge. In fact, I attended an add-on point. I attended a webinar conducted by Aeronautical Society of India 3 days ago. The subject itself was how artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics are used in aviation industry. So 3 people spoke. In fact, one of our advisors, Mrs. Sharma, was also one of the speakers. That is how I got an opportunity to join that webinar. So the whole 1.5 hours discussion was only about how these aspects are used in aviation industry, largely in the engineering side.
Okay, sir. So that was all from the Q&A side. And yes.
Anything else from anybody? If you just want to add any question, like Arun said, we can just mail us any question that you might have. If you want, I can just put up that mail ID one more time for all of you, just for your understanding. Give me a second. You can write to us in this particular mail ID or just call us on one of these numbers. We'll be more than happy to help you with any additional questions you might have. As I highlighted, we want you to be absolutely clear about the benefits of this entire program. And I just want to close it down with the one point saying that, look, when I thought about it, when I came out of my regular job after working for about 29, 30 years, when I decided to take that entrepreneurial journey, while I wanted to do something, I also wanted to do something which has a social impact. And the way I'm looking at this is, if 4 lakhs engineers are struggling to find employability related issues, and if we can do something, and we are all convinced that only people from the industry can support this particular thing. If we are able to do something and we are able to change the scenario even to a smallest extent by improving the situation of 10, 15, 20,000 engineers, that is going to be a huge positive impact. So that is the kind of satisfaction that we would get, all of us would get through this particular intervention. Yeah. So this is not just a business alone. This also has a social angle to the whole.
Correct. Good, sir.
That's pretty much from my side, Arun.
Any queries are there? Any queries? Please.
I know we took longer than what we thought we will.
Yeah, correct. Setu, is there any other queries? No, I think
just one question. Let me just answer that. I thought I answered it in a way. Are there any practical sessions? The answer is no at this point in time. I think I answered it, because we are able to give a better approach. I just gave you that jet engine experience or example, or if you want to experience anything in an oil refinery, you'll have to go and work in an oil refinery, right? And many of these oil refineries are extremely restricted, and you cannot go and work there. And we give you all of this learning and all of these details through a immersive learning experience.
Okay, sir. Okay, I think we are good to go. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
So once again, thanks, Arun, and thanks to Shankara management team. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.